Okay, this is part 11 of Champion. Day. June's left for Antarctica. Eden's gone to Los Angeles with the second wave of evacuees. The rest of us stay down in this bunker listening as the colony's assault continues. This time the fighting sounds worse. Sometimes the earth trembles so much that fine dust rains down on us from the underground bunker's ceiling, coasting lines of evacuees with gray ash as they hurry onto the waiting trains. Rotating lights over the tunnel paint us in all flashes of red. I wonder how other bunkers across the city are holding up. The evacuations grow more urgent as each train leaves on the hour and is replaced by a new one. Who knows how long this tunnel will stay stable? Now and then I see soldiers shoving civilians back into line when they get unruly. Single file, they bark out, hoisting their guns threateningly. Their faces are hidden behind riot masks that I know all too damn well. Dissidents will be left behind, no questions asked. Move along, people. I stay at one end of the bunker as the dust continues to rain down, huddled with Posco, Tess, and the other remaining patriots. At first, a few soldiers tried to hustle me onto one of the trains, but they left me alone after I lashed out at them with a string of curses. Now they ignore me. I watch people load onto the train for a few seconds before I return to my conversation with Posco. Tess sits beside me, although the unspoken tension between us makes her feel much farther away. My ever-present headache pounds a dull rhythm against the back of my head. You saw more of the city than I did, I whispered to Posco. How did you think the armor is holding up? Not great, Posco responds. In fact, with another country helping the colonies, I wouldn't be surprised if the armor breaks down in a matter of days with this kind of assault. It's not going to hold for long, trust me. I turn to see how many people are still waiting to board the trains. How should we go about throwing the colonies some curveballs? Another voice pipes up. It's one of the hackers, Frankie, the girl with the wounded shoulder. If we can get our hands on a few Electra bombs, she says in a thoughtful voice, I can probably rewire them to scramble some of the colony's weapons or something. We might be able to throw their jets off, too. Jets, that's right. Andon had mentioned the colony's jets parked on a makeshift airfield outside the armor's walls. I can get my hands on some, I whisper, and some grenades, too. Pasco clicks his tongue in excitement. So we get to have fun with nitroglycerin in your plan? You get on that, then. He turns to address Baxter, who shoots me a cranky glare. His ear looks as mangled as ever. Hey, Baxter boy, back up Jiro and Frankie. Make sure you give them cover while they're working their magic. Pasco, I say, you up for some decoy work? He laughs. It's what runners are best at, yeah? Let's play with them a little. I want you to be my double while I'm heading toward their makeshift airfield. Sounds promising. Good. Despite the grimness of the situation, I smile. A note of haughtiness creeps into my voice. This night'll end with a bunch of expensive, useless military machines. You're out of your mind, blinder boy. Baxter snaps up at me. The Republic itself can't even keep the colonies out. You think our little group stands a chance at beating them? We don't need to beat them. All we need to do is stall them, and I'm pretty sure we're good at that. Baxter lets out a loud snort of irritation, but Posco's grin grows wider. Next to me, Tess shifts uncomfortably. She's probably thinking back on my past crimes, how she'd have to witness them all, and how she'd have to bandage me up after every single one. Maybe she's worried about me, or maybe she's glad. Maybe she'd rather me not be here at all. But she had come back here because of me. That's what she said, isn't it? She must still care, at least on some level. I try to think of the right thing to say to her to fill this awkward silence, but instead I question the others. You told me back in the room that you guys came back here because you wanted to be pardoned, but you could have tried escaping to a country other than the Republic, yeah? You wouldn't even have to help the Republic out, and the Elector, that is. He would have pardoned you all anyway. My eyes fall on Posco. You knew that, didn't you? Why didn't you all really come back here? I know it's not just because you heard my plea. Posco's grin fades, and for a moment he actually looks serious. He sighs, then gazes around at our little group. It's hard to believe they used to be a part of something so much larger. We're the Patriots, right? He finally says. We're supposed to be committed to seeing the United States return in some way or other. With the way things seem to be in the colonies, I don't know if they'd be the right ones to bring that kind of change about. But I gotta admit, the new Republic elector has potential, and after what Razor pulled on us, even I think Ando might be the answer we've been waiting for. Pasco pauses to nod at Baxter, who just shrugs. Even Baxter boy here thinks so. I frown. So you guys came back here because you genuinely want to help the Republic win this war? You seriously want to help us defend ourselves? Pasco nods again. Why didn't you say that back in the room? Would have sounded pretty noble. No, it wouldn't. Pasco shakes his head. They wouldn't have believed us. The patriots, the terrorists, who used to blow up Republic soldiers every chance they got? Yeah, right. I figured it'd be better for us if we played the pardon card instead. It seemed like a more realistic answer for your elector and your little princeps-elect. I stay silent. When Pasco sees me hesitate, he dusts off his hands and stands up. Let's get started, he says to me. No time to waste. Not with this hailstorm happening upstairs. He motions for the other patriots to gather around and starts divvying up their individual tasks. I rise to a crouch. Tess takes a deep breath, and when she catches my gaze again, she speaks to me for the first time since being in the room together. I'm sorry, Day. She says it softly so that the others can't hear. I freeze where I am, resting my elbows on my crouched legs. Why? I reply. You don't have anything to be sorry for. Yes, I do. Tess looks away. How did she grow up so quickly? She's still thin, still delicate, but her eyes belong to someone older than I remember. I didn't mean to leave you behind, and I didn't mean to blame June for everything. I don't really believe she's bad. I never really believed that. I was just so angry. Her face pulls me into her like it always does, the way it did all the way back when I first saw her digging around in that dumpster. I wish I could hug her, but I sit back and wait, letting her make the call. Tess, I say slowly, trying to figure out the best way to express what I'm feeling. Hell, I've said so many stupid things to her in the past. I love you, no matter what happens between us. Tess wraps her arms around her knees. I know. I swallow hard and look down. But I don't love you the way you want me to. I'm sorry if I ever gave you the wrong impression. I don't think I've ever treated you as well as you deserve. My heart twists painfully as the words leave my mouth, striking her as they go. So don't be sorry. It's my fault, not yours. Tess shakes her head. I know you don't love me that way. Don't you think I know that by now? A note of bitterness enters her voice. But you don't know how I feel about you. No one does. I give her a level look. Tell me then. Day, you mean more to me than some crush. Her brows furrow as she tries to explain herself. When the entire world turned its back on me and left me to die, you took me in. You were the one person who cared about what might happen to me. You were everything. Everything. You became my entire family. You were my parents and my siblings and my caretaker, my only friend and companion. You were both my protector and someone who needed protecting. You see, I didn't love you in the way you might have thought I did, although I can't deny that was part of it. But the way I feel goes beyond that. I open my mouth to reply, but nothing comes out. I don't know what to say. All I can do is see. Tess lets out a shaky breath. So when I thought June might take you away, I didn't know what to do. I felt like she was taking everything that mattered to me. I felt like she was taking away from you all the things that I didn't have. She lowers her eyes. That's why I'm sorry. I'm sorry because you shouldn't have to be everything to me. I had you, but I'd forgotten that I had myself too. She pauses to look over at the patriots who are deep in conversation. It's a new feeling, something I'm still getting used to. And just like that, we're both kids again. I see the younger us dangling our feet over the edge of some broken high-rise, watching the sun dip every evening below the ocean's horizon. How much we've seen since then, how far we've come. I reach over to tap her nose once, just like how I always have. She smiles for the first time. The night has transitioned into the early hour before dawn, and the drizzle and slush has finally paused, leaving the city glistening under the moonlight. The evacuation alarm still echoes every now and then, and the jumbotrons continue their ominous red warning to seek cover, but a brief lull has hit the battle, and the skies aren't full of jets and explosions. Guess both sides have to rest up or something. I rub the weariness from my eyes and try to ignore my headache. I could use some rest. It's not going to be easy, you know, Pasco whispers to me as we both survey the morning. They're probably on the lookout for Republic soldiers. We're perched on top of the armor watching the field just beyond the city's boundaries. It's not like people don't live outside the armor, but unlike LA, which is just one large spread of buildings that melts right into its neighboring cities, Denver's population is sparser outside the safety of its walls. Small clusters of buildings sit here and there. They seem empty, and I wonder if the Republic saw the colonies approaching from a distance and evacuated their people inside the armor. Although the colony's airships have returned back to their own land in order to refuel, they've left a bunch of jets in the fields, and the areas they've occupied are well lit with floodlights. I'm kind of shocked by how repulsed I am at the thought of the colonies taking us over. A year ago, I would be cheering at the top of my gaudy lungs for this exact scenario. But now I just hear the colony slogan over and over in my head. A free state is a corporate state. The ads I remember from their cities make me shiver. It's hard to decide which I prefer, really. Watch my brother grow up under the colony's rule or watch him taken back for experimentation by the Republic. Yeah, they'll be on the lookout. I agree. Then I turn away from the armor's edge and start making my way down the wall. Along the armor's outer edge, Republic jets lie parked, manned, and ready. But we're not Republic soldiers. If they can hit us with a surprise attack, then so can we. Pasco and I are dressed exactly alike in black from head to toe with masks pulled over our faces. If it weren't for a little height difference, I don't think anyone would be able to tell us apart. You two ready? Pasco mutters into his mic to our hackers. Then he glances at me and gives a thumbs up signal. If they're in place, then that means Tess is in place too. Stay safe. We make our way down to the ground and then let several Republic soldiers guide us around to a small, discreet underground passage. It leads outside the armor and its dangerous territory. The soldiers nod a silent good luck to us before retreating back inside. I hope to hell this all works. I look out at the field where colony's jets are parked. When I first turned 15, I had set fire to a series of 10 brand new F-472 Republic fighter jets parked at the Burbank Air Force Base in Los Angeles. It was the first stunt that landed me at the top of the most wanted list, and one of the crimes June herself actually made me confess to when I'd been arrested. I did it by first stealing gallons of highly explosive blue nitroglide from Air Force bases, then pouring the liquid into the jet's exhaust nozzles and across the tail end of the jets. The instant their engines turned on, their tails exploded into flames. The memory comes back to me in sharp focus. The design of the colony's jets looks different, with their strange forward-swept wings, but at the end of the day, they're still just machines. And this time, I'm not working alone. I've got the Republic's support. Most importantly, I've got their explosives. Ready to make your move? I whisper to Pasco. Got your bombs? You think I forget to bring bombs? You should know me better than that. Pasco's voice turns taunting. Day, no bull this time. Got it, pretty boy? If you suddenly think you want to go rogue, you sure as hell better tell me first. Then, at least I'll have time to sock you in the face. I smile a little at the jab. Yes, sir. Our outfits blend us into the shadows. We creep forward without a sound until we're past the short distance where the armor's guns could protect us from the ground. Now we're out of range and the colony's makeshift airfield looks within reach. Their soldiers stand guard along the edges of the field. Not far away are a couple rows of tanks. Their airships might not be here, but there sure as hell are enough war machines to start up another battle. Pasco and I crouch behind a pile of rubble near the airfield. All I can see is this light. In this light is his silhouette. He nods his head once before whispering something into his mic. We wait for a few tense seconds. Then the jumbotrons that line the outer edges of the armor light up in unison. Displayed across the screens is a Republic flag, and over the city's loudspeakers, the pledge blares out across the night. The whole thing looks exactly like one of the Republic's typical propaganda reels. The jumbotrons start displaying generic videos of patriotic soldiers and civilians, war victories, and prosperous streets. At the airfield, the soldiers' attention shifts to the jumbotron's feed. At first, they look alert and wary, and as the reel continues for a few seconds longer, the colony's soldiers relax. Good. They think the Republic's just broadcasting morale-boosting video. Nothing weird enough to put the colonies on high alert, but something entertaining enough to hold their interest. I pick out an area where the soldiers are all watching the jumbotrons, then nod at Pasco. He motions at me. My turn to head out. I squint harder to see where I can squeeze onto the airfield. There are 4 colonies soldiers here, all of them focused on the broadcast. A soldier dressed like a pilot is the farthest away and has his back to me, and from here it looks like he's making fun of the broadcast with a pal of his. I wait until all of the guards are looking away from where I am. Then I scamper over the edge without a sound and hide behind the closest jet's back landing wheel. I tuck myself into a tight ball, letting my black outfit blend me in with the shadows. One of the guards looks casually over his shoulder toward the jet. When he doesn't see anything interesting, though, he returns to surveying the armor. I wait for a few more seconds. Then I adjust my backpack and climb up inside the jet's exhaust nozzle. My heart pounds with anticipation at the déjà vu this gives me. Excuse me. Okay. I waste no time now. I pull a small metal cube out of my pack and attach it firmly to the inside of the nozzle. Its display panel gives off a very faint red glow, so dim I can barely see it. I make sure it's secure and then shift to the edge of the nozzle. We won't have much longer before the guards lose interest in our little propaganda distraction. When the coast's clear, I hop out of the nozzle. My cushioned boots land without a sound. I melt back into the shadows cast by the jet's landing gear, watch for guards, and move to the next row of jets. Posco should be doing the exact same work on the other side of the field. If this all goes down as planned, then one explosive per row should do plenty of damage. By the time I make my way to the third row of jets and finish my work there, I'm soaked in sweat. Off in the distance, the Jumbotron's propaganda keeps running, but I can tell that some of the guards have already lost interest. Time to get out of here. I lower myself silently toward the ground again, dangle there in the shadows, and then pick the right moment to drop and rush toward the darkness. Except it wasn't really the right moment. One of my hands slips and the metal edge of the exhaust nozzle slices my palm open. My weakened body doesn't land perfectly. I let out a grunt of pain and move too slowly into the landing gear shadows. A guard spots me. Before I can stop him, his eyes widen and he lifts his gun at me. He hasn't even had a chance to shout out when a shiny knife comes flying out of the darkness and sinks itself in the soldier's neck. I watch for an instant, horrified. Posco. I know it was him, saving my ass while drawing attention to himself. Already a couple of shots have gone up on the other side of the airfield. He's pulling their focus away from me. I seize the opportunity, racing into the relative safety of the land outside the airfield. I click my mic on and call Posco. Are you safe? I whisper urgently. Safe as you, pretty boy, he says. He hisses back, the sounds of heavy breathing and footsteps loud in my earpiece. Just got out of the airfield's range. Give Frankie the okay. I gotta shake 2 more off my tail. He hangs up. I contact Frankie. We're ready, I tell her. Let him go. You got it, Frankie answers. The Jumbotrons suddenly stop their reel and go dark. The sound blasting across the city cuts short, plunging us all into an eerie silence. Colony soldiers who'd probably been pursuing Posco now look up at the blank Jumbotrons in bewilderment along with the others. A few seconds of silence pass. Then a bright, blinding explosion rips apart the center of the airfield. I steady myself. When I look back at the first line of soldiers on the street, I see them knocked off their feet and picking themselves slowly up in a daze. Sparks of electricity fill the air, jumping frantically back and forth between the jets. Soldiers farther down the street point their guns at the buildings, firing randomly, but the ones along the front line discover that their guns no longer work. I keep running back toward the armor. Another explosion rocks the same area, and an enormous golden haze engulfs everything in sight. Shouts of panic rise from the colony's troops. They can't see what's happening, but I know that right now each bomb we'd planted is destroying the rows of jets, both crippling them and temporarily disabling the magnets in their guns. Some of them pull out their guns and fire randomly into the darkness, as if Republic soldiers are lying in wait. I guess they're not entirely wrong. Right on cue, the Republic jets along the armor take off into the sky. Their roars deafen me. I switch my mic back to Frankie. How are the evacuations going? As smoothly as possible, she replies. Probably 2 more waves of people left. Ready for your big moment? Go for it, I whisper back. The Jumbotrons flare to life. This time, though, they're displaying my painted face on all of their screens. A pre-recorded video we'd made. I smile widely for the colonies, even as they scramble to see what jets they still have, and in this instant I feel like I'm looking into the face of a stranger, a face that's unfamiliar and terrifying beyond its wide black stripe. For a moment I can't even remember recording this video in the first place. The thought makes me scramble for the memory in a panic, until I finally recall it and breathe a sigh of relief. My name is Day, my Jumbotron video self says, and I'm fighting for the Republic's people. If I were you, I'd be a little more careful. Frankie cuts my feet again. Overhead, the Republic's jets scream across the sky. I see orange fireballs light up the airfield. With our stunt and half their jets gone and the advantage of surprise, the colony soldiers scramble for a retreat. I bet the calls going back to their command are flying fast and furious now. Frankie comes back online. She sounds elated. The Republic's troops have gotten wind of our success, she says. In the background, I hear to my relief Posco's line click on too. Nice job, runners. Garrow and Baxter are already on their way. She sounds distracted. We're heading back in now. Give me a few seconds and we'll be... She cuts off. I blink, surprised. Frankie, I say, reconnecting to her. Nothing. All I hear is static. Where'd she go? Pasco says through the white noise. Did she go offline for you too? Yeah. I scramble onward, trying not to think the worst. The safety of the armor isn't far away. I can make out the tiny side entrance we're supposed to return through, and here, in the midst of all the chaos, I see several Republic soldiers rushing through the dust to face off against any colony's troops that might have followed us. Just a few yards from the door now. A bullet sparks past me, narrowly missing my ear. Then I hear a scream that makes my blood run cold. When I whirl around, I see Tess and Frankie running behind me. They're leaning on each other. Behind them must be 5 or 6 colony soldiers. I freeze, then quickly change course. I yank a knife from my belt and throw it at the soldiers as hard as I can. It catches one of them clean in the side. He drops to his knees. The others notice me. Tess and Frankie barely make it to the door. I dash toward them. Behind me, the soldiers hoist their guns. Just as Tess pushes Frankie through the entrance, a soldier steps out of the shadows near the door. I recognize him instantly. It's Thomas, a gun dangling from one hand. His eyes are fixed on Tess and me, and his expression is dark, deadly, and furious. For an instant, the world seems to go silent. I glance at his gun. He hoists it. No. Instinctively, I move toward Tess, shielding her with my body. He's going to kill us. But even as this thought races through my mind, Thomas turns his back on us, facing the oncoming colony soldiers instead. His hand quivers with rage and tightens on the gun. Shock pulses through me, but there's no time to think about that now. Go, I urge Tess. We stumble through the side door. In that same moment, Thomas raises his gun. He fires one shot, then another, then another. He lets out a blood-curdling yell as each bullet hurtles toward the enemy troops. It takes me a second to make out what he's screaming. Long live the Elector! Long live the Republic! He manages 6 shots before the colony soldiers return fire. I hug Tess to my chest, then cover her eyes. She lets out a cry of protest. Don't look, I whisper in her ear. At that very moment, I see Thomas's head snap violently back and his entire body go limp. An image of my mother flashes before my eyes. Shot through the head. He's been shot through the head. Death by firing squad. The blast makes Tess jump. She utters a strangled sob behind my shielding hands. The door swings shut. Pasco greets us the instant we're safely through. He's covered head to toe in dust, but he still has a half grin on his face. The final evacuation wave is waiting for us, he says, nodding toward 2 parked jeeps ready to take us back to the bunker. Republic soldiers have already started toward us, but before any of us can feel relieved, I notice that Frankie has collapsed to the ground and Tess is hovering over her. Pasco's half-grin vanishes. As soldiers seal off the side entrance, we gather around Frankie. Tess pulls out a kit of supplies. Frankie has started to convulse. Her coat's stripped completely off, revealing a blood-soaked shirt beneath. Her eyes are wide open in shock and she's struggling to breathe. She was shot as we were getting away, Tess says as she tears away the cloth of Frankie's shirt. Sweat beads along her brow. 3 or 4 times, her trembling hands fly across Frankie's body, scattering powder and pressing ointment into the wounds. When she's done, she yanks out a thick wad of bandages. She's not going to make it, Pasco mutters to Tess as she pushes him out of the way and pushes firmly down on one of Frankie's gushing wounds. We have to move. Now. Tess wipes her brow. Just give me another minute, she insists through gritted teeth. We have to control the bleeding. Pasco starts to protest, but I silence him with a dangerous look. Let her do it. Then I kneel beside Tess, my eyes helplessly drawn to Frankie's pitiful figure. I can tell that she's not going to make it. I'll do whatever you say, I murmur to Tess. Let us help. Keep pressure on her wounds, Tess replies, waving a hand at the bandages that are already more red than white. She rushes to make a poultice. Frankie's eyelids flutter. She chokes at a strangled cry, then manages to look up at us. You've got to go. The colonies, they're coming. It takes a whole minute for her to die. Tess keeps applying meds for a while longer until I finally put a hand over hers to stop her. I look up at Pasco. One of the Republic soldiers approaches us again and gives us a stern frown. This is your final warning, he says, gesturing toward the open doors of 2 jeeps. We're heading out. Go, I tell Pasco. We'll take the jeep right behind you. Pasco hesitates for a second, stricken at the sight of Frankie, but then hops to his feet and disappears into the first jeep. It tears away, leaving a cloud of dust in its wake. Come on, I urge Tess, who stays hunched over Frankie's lifeless body. On the other side of the armor, the sounds of battle rage. We have to go. Tess wrenches free of my grasp and flings her roll of bandages hard at the wall. Then she turns to look back at Frankie's ashen face. I stand up, forcing Tess to do the same. My bloody hand leaves prints on her arm. Soldiers grab both of us and lead us toward the remaining jeep. As we finally make our way inside, Tess turns her eyes up to mine. They're brimming with tears, and the sight of her anguish breaks my heart. We pull away from the armor as soldiers load Frankie onto a truck. Then we turn a corner and speed toward the bunker. By the time we arrive, Posco's jeep has already unloaded, and they're headed down to the train. The soldiers are tense. As they clear us past the bunker's entrance's chain-linked fence, another explosion from the armor sends tremors through the ground. As if in a dream, we rush down the metal staircase and through the corridors flooded with dim red lights, the sound of pounding boots echoing dully from outside. Farther and farther down we go until we finally reach the bunker and make our way onto the waiting train. Soldiers pull us on board. As the subway flares to life and we pull away from the bunker, a series of explosions reverberate through the space, nearly knocking us off our feet. Tess clings to me. As I hold her close, the tunnel behind us collapses, encasing us in darkness. We speed along. Echoes of the explosions ring through the earth. My headache flares up. Posco tries to say something to me, but I can no longer hear him. I can't hear anything. The world around me dulls into grays, and I feel myself spinning. Where are we again? Somewhere. Tess screams out my name, but I don't know what she says after that because I lose myself in an ocean of pain and collapse into blackness.